If scales contain all the notes that we need, why don't they automatically lead to better improvisations and solos? Well, a lot of guitar players believe that the only way to get better at improvising is by adding more scales to your repertoire. But here's the problem with that. Their solos still sound like skill exercises rather than real music. So in this video, I want to show you the 3 reasons why learning more scales won't automatically make you a better improviser. And more importantly, the things that will actually help your improvisation sound more natural, more fluid, more intentional, and more musical. So reason number 1 is that scales don't make music. Your musical ideas do. A scale is just the raw material. It's just a list of available notes that you have to play on top of a chord. It tells you what can work on top of a chord or a chord progression, but it doesn't tell you what to play musically speaking, and it doesn't automatically tell you which notes are the most effective to make the audience feel the way that you want them to feel, or to express the sound and feeling that you want to express. Like I said, it's just a list of available notes. What you play is a matter of what you want to say through your playing, and that's what's actually going to dictate the notes that you choose from those scales. And through your musical taste and you exploring that scale, you'll determine which notes of that scale sound the best to you and express what you want to say. And the way that you do that is through phrasing, rhythm, and the use of motives. Great solos sound melodic because of their use of rhythm, phrasing, and motive, not note choice by itself. I mean, think of it like a singer singing a melody. You have pauses, you have emphasis, you have timing, and you have repetition, which is what a motive is all about, balancing repetition and variety. And Miles Davis is a king of this. Just listen to any one of the solos in Kind of Blue and you'll hear what I mean. Each one of those solos has pause. It breathes. They use motives and repetition and variety to create a sense of melody, of melodic intent. And even something so simple as the pentatonic scale can sound incredible in the right hands with the right use of rhythm, phrasing, and motives. And it's the reason that 2 players can be playing the same scale in the same song but sound completely different. The scale doesn't determine the quality of the solo, your musical choices do. Your unique expression, phrasing, and rhythm create the difference. But there's another problem with focusing just on learning more scales that most players don't realize. And that's that learning more scales can actually become a distraction. Because the thing is that learning scales feels like more progress. It's structured and measurable. You can memorize a pattern and you'll feel like you accomplished something, and that's because you did. But that doesn't guarantee musical improvement. Many players over the course of the years become scale collectors. They learn so many scales, but when the moment of truth comes and they start to improvise, they kind of default back to the same scales and patterns and the same ideas that they usually always do. And the thing is that improvising is a dance between what you know and what you want to say. And that can lie beyond what you already know. And that's the improvisational aspect of improvising. As you know the scales and you explore how to use them and you identify patterns and licks that you like in those scales. But there's always going to be an element of the unknown, of exploration when improvising. It's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know. And that's what will impact the listener most. So improvisation requires different skills. The real skills are things like phrasing, listening, reacting to the harmonics and dynamics, communication, and developing musical ideas and motives. Those skills usually get neglected when players focus too much on new scales. You can become very good at learning new scales without becoming good at improvising. But why do so many guitarists still feel stuck in their solos even though they know the scale? Well, many guitarists learn scales as a box pattern and they get trapped in it because the typical learning method is to learn the scale in one shape and in one box in just one region on the guitar. And this can handicap your ability to improvise because it limits the range of notes that you have to play with. So if you want to get up on the neck and do something really dramatic, you're going to be grasping at straws and just guessing at where the notes are. And the same thing for going lower on the register. If you don't know where those notes from that scale are, then you're going to be limited in where you can explore on the neck. Because the thing is that music moves across the entire neck. It moves across octaves and it moves across ranges. Real melodies move along with the music. Maybe in the start of a jam, the dynamics are low and it's fitting to play in the lower register, but as the jam progresses, you might want to explore other registers. Maybe you'll want to go up the neck and do a really climactic note if everyone's really riled up in the middle of the jam and they want to keep developing those dynamics. That's why you need to be able to look at it across the entire neck. So that can mean moving horizontally across strings and even between positions on the neck to achieve the desired effect and dynamic, so you can really impact the listener and express what you want to say. So real understanding means seeing the entire fretboard. Instead of memorizing isolated shapes, you want to understand where the notes are, how the positions connect, and how scales flow across the entire neck. And that's what gives you freedom when improvising. I'll go so far as to even say that if you only learn the scale in one position, then you don't really know the scale. Because when you bring it to real life, to jam sessions, to solo sections and songs, you'll be limited to just that, and that's not a complete view of the scale on the guitar. So if learning more scales isn't actually what improves improvisation, what should guitarists focus on instead? Well, instead of focusing on more scales for the sake of more scales, great improvisers focus on a few key skills. So they focus on using motive, which is the art of using recognizable melodic and rhythmic patterns to create small musical statement. You have to think like a singer almost. So focus on playing short musical ideas and repeating them, almost to the point of exhaustion, even if just as an exercise, so you can start getting the hang of what using motives in improvisation means. Doing that will make sure that you don't sound like endless scale runs all over the neck. So for example, if I have a motive here that sounds like this, we can repeat that rhythmic motive and we can play it in another part in the scale. So for example, I can do that motive again. That was just an example, but I was repeating the same rhythmic motive over and over again. And if you really want to practice this well, take a song that you like, a jazz standard, a rock song, be it whatever it may. Take the song and just practice doing one motive across the entire song. That can be one single rhythmic motive like I just did in that example. Play across the entire song and just repeat the rhythmic motive using different parts of the scale. And that way you'll start to get used to the idea of actually using motives in your improvisation. By result, that'll make your soloing more recognizable, or in other words, more melodic. Another thing that actually improves your improvisations is using chord tones to connect your solos to the harmony of the song. So when improvising, you want to land on the most important notes that belong to a chord. And that's usually what we call the color tones, which is usually the third or the seventh. Again, take an entire song and just practice landing on the third and the seventh of each chord. And you'll want to land on the closest color tone that you have from each chord. So let's take, for example, a simple 2-5-1. Like if I were to land on the color tones of each of those chords, then for the D minor 7, we could do the third over here. And the nearest color tone of the next chord, which is G7, could be the third over here. Then when we go to the 1, the C major and resolve, then we can go to the third again, which would be this. And then you associate it with that position. So for example, if I right here go to another 2-5-1 in C minor, then the same thing applies. Right? And so on and so forth. So take an entire song and practice just nailing where the thirds and seventh are for that song. You'll see that your solos will sound way more connected to the harmony, way more intentional. And the third thing that actually improves your improvisation is fretboard fluency. In other words, connecting the different positions of the case system. When improvising, you don't know where you're going to be on the neck. You might be playing over here, but suddenly you want to jump over there. So how do you reconcile these things on the neck? Well, you connect the positions of the case system in this case. instead of staying stuck in one single place on the neck. So use this idea to explore different octaves and registers on the neck. And when you do that, also be aware of how that influences your improvisation. How does your playing change when you're improvising on the lower register of the neck versus when you're improvising up on the neck? Usually a lot of people want to do a lot more bends up on the neck, for example. And maybe when they're playing lower on the register, they want to play maybe a bit more rhythmically. And use those octaves and differences in register to create contrast in your improvisation. Tying back to the idea of how using the different octaves impacts your playing and your improvisation. Well, use that to your advantage. If you do a lot of bends or a lot of runs up around the neck, then make that an intentional part of your improvisation and practice explicitly doing that. So it's this combination of these three things, among other things, that'll help you improve your improvisations. It'll make your improvisations sound more connected with the music, more intentional and more expressive, and even more melodic. And that's what we all want. And as a result, you'll feel way more confident in your improvisation, in what you want to say with your music, and people will take notice of that. So to be clear, scales themselves are not the problem. Scales are an invaluable tool. They give us the notes that we can use on top of a chord or a chord progression. In a very real way, they are the foundation upon which we build the house that is our guitar solos and improvisations. But improvisation is not about how many scales you know. It's about how you use the notes that you do know. Great improvisers like Wes Montgomery, Pat Martino, Pat Metheny, and so many others, they focus on things like phrasing, harmony, targeting the important notes in the harmony, and understanding the fretboard, so they can move freely across the neck and express themselves no matter where they are on the guitar. And when you start thinking about improvisation in that way, the scales that you do already know suddenly start to become a lot more useful. Now, if you want help with that process, I actually put together a free guide called 3 Steps to Fretboard Mastery. It walks you through a simple system for understanding the entire fretboard. So you're not just memorizing scale shapes. You're actually learning how scales connect across the entire neck. If you'd like to check that out, you can check the link in the description down below. And until next time, keep practicing.